Uh-oh. Low network connection. What? Hello, everyone. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties with low internet connection, so I don't even know if we were just live for that minute or not. Hi. Welcome back to the Tom and Ariana show.
And we're matching this week.
It's totally not on purpose.
I will just call out that I had black on first, and then you copied me.
You always have black on. It's your favorite color.
I know, but you should know not to wear black then.
No.
And by the way, not just the tops. We actually have matching bottoms, too.
We have matching color pants.
We're nerds.
You're a nerd.
But I'm still team dressy, and you're still team sweatpants, so...
I am still team sweatpants. I totally have sweatpants
team
on.
Comfort, I guess.
With my sweater right now. So, remember, if you are watching us live, hit the comments down below and let us know that you're hashtag Team Live. And if you're catching us on the replay, also post up a comment and let us know hashtag Team Replay. Today, what do we got for today?
So, basic format for the show. As always, we're going to reflect on the last week. So, each of us will share a little bit of what we learned or reflections we had. And then, main topic for the show is going to be a good one. It's going to be really the 3 challenges that anybody faces when building a business. Yep. And, I mean, we face these so many times. And then, finally, we're going to reflect on, wins for the week, as well as a post that was pretty popular in the group. Just talk about that and some of the responses.
Yeah, and just an FYI, we might have a tiny person that pops in the video at some point here. We've got a little one homesick from school, so she's watching The Grinch. Hopefully, it keeps her going while we are live.
Well, and actually talking about last week, so we talked about, the benefits of being your own boss and being able to, not have to worry about a job. And just an example today of when our daughter was home, we could have her home and not really have to take like a sick day or a vacation day. So a lot more flexibility, being able to be your own boss.
And you get to sit in your pajamas for the morning and watch Christmas movies.
There you go. That was pretty good.
All right, so let's jump into the reflection for the week. Mine, I'm just going to put it out there. Launching anything is exhausting. I am so tired. We've been going nonstop, and we're not even officially launched yet because we haven't launched to the public. It's been kind of like the pre-launch to our main audience, which is you guys here in our group and our email list. And I'm still exhausted. Well, we got a whole nother week to go.
Well, I think one of the things people don't realize is that behind the scenes, there's so much more that goes on. I mean, launching is one piece.
There's like a million little things that you have to think about, that you have to plan.
But even just running a business. I mean, most people don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes with running a business. They only see the surface level stuff, which is maybe 5 or 10%.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's as with a lot of things in the entrepreneur world, it's very glorified out there because everyone talks about, oh, I'm launching and I did this amazing successful launch and I just made $20,000 on my launch, or I made $50,000 on my launch. And it makes you in your head kind of assume like, oh, that's what launching is. You launch something and you make a shit ton of money. That's not really what launching is. It's messy. It's exhausting. It's a lot of small details and figuring things out last minute. It's having life screw up your plans and get in the way halfway through your launch. And again, I'll say the people out there that you're looking at that are talking about their huge successful launches often are not showing you the back end of things. They're not showing you they're not saying, oh, that's my top line revenue off my launch. They didn't actually bring home $50,000 from their launch. They probably spent a very large portion of that already to have that launch be successful. They paid a lot of money in ads. They probably paid money out to their team to put everything together, So when you look at what a successful launch is, just don't use those played out, overly over the top, like, oh, launching and awesome and I made all this money. Don't use those as your examples.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with looking at successful businesses and seeing that they were an overnight success, but not realizing that years of work probably went into that. The same thing with successful launches. I mean, most people won't tell you this, but most people had failed launches several times before they had the successful one.
Yes.
And a lot of times what happens is that, you don't completely have all the pieces of your business or your product offering nailed down, and you try to do a launch and it doesn't work. And you've got to go through usually a couple cycles of that until you get all the pieces together and it finally does work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's normal. Everyone goes through that. Even those big successful people, they go through it. They just don't talk about it because that's not the successful part. The successful part is when they've launched everything and it was awesome and they made all this money.
Yeah, well, and to that point too, you hear about the successful ones, but you often don't hear about all the people.
No,
who
it's
fail.
people don't want to talk about failure. Failure is taboo. Oh, I made a mistake. I failed at something. I can't talk about it. Bull. It helps other people to talk about your failures. It helps normalize the fact that not everything always goes well.
Well, and to be honest, I think it helps you to talk about your failures. Like, I know for me, one thing, when I talk about a failure, I own it, and it's not like I have to hide it, and then I can then do something about it. But a lot of people, because they kind of hide it, they feel
I think
like...
you use it as a lesson,
Exactly.
and then you move on. You use that as, oh, well, that didn't work. Let me see how I can flip things around and get it to work. And I think we've got Nicole watching. She says, so messy.
Oh,
All the
yes.
best laid plans. Yes. Well, and just adding the aspect on of being a parent, like, if this were any other time and we had a sick child at home, or I'll say it, I'm not going to feel guilty about it at all. If it was child number 2 versus child number 1, we would be in a completely different situation. I'd probably have a kid on my lap in order for us to do this live right now. But, that's the other piece that people don't think about. Like, kids get sick in the middle of your launch week, or, something in your business falls apart, or your tech doesn't work.
Of course.
That's just how life happens sometimes. So I think just, knowing that in the back of your mind that you can only prepare the best you can and do everything you can, but there's still some things that aren't going to go well, and you just roll with it.
Well, and I think part of that is knowing that things aren't going to go well and just anticipating some of that.
Yep.
Some you can plan for ahead of time, some you can't. But if you expect things to go perfect, you're always going to be disappointed.
Pretty much.
Expect that there's going to be some issues and know that you're just going to roll through those.
Yeah. Well, what was yours for this week?
Oh, mine. This was awesome. So we actually just celebrated 5 years of our wine and liquor
Yay!
store this month. And it was kind of cool because we had Facebook popping up with, pictures of the store when we first opened compared to, like, pictures now.
Yep.
And so my reflection, my lesson is really the importance of being clear on the type of business you want to build and then putting the right pieces in place to make sure that that thing works. And the big reflection for me this week was the importance of hiring a good team.
Yeah.
So we have some of the best employees that work with us at our wine and liquor store. And what that's enabled for us is, and people are always surprised by this, we don't physically work in our wine and liquor store.
Oh, so you're going to be at the store Saturday when I come? I'm like, no, we don't work there.
I can't remember the last time either one of us actually was on the cash register, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe more. But so the whole reason that we're able to do that is because we put a plan in place, we put the right people in place, and we put the right systems in place. And our employees are awesome. So the way we set the store up is that we meet quarterly with our 2 main employees. And in between that, we're talking on the phone, we've got Slack, and we're laying out the plans and the processes for them. But they know, they're aligned to what we do, but 2, they know enough of what they're doing that they can run in their roles with just support and guidance from us.
It's one of those things where we'll go a really long time without hearing from anybody. And in my head, you get that little worry, oh my gosh, we haven't heard from anybody at the store. But then my second thought is, if something happened that they couldn't take care of, we would hear about it. So I guess we're good.
Yeah, and so we were reviewing the numbers with these employees, and I actually spent a day down there because we had to install 7 new shelves.
Oh yeah, if you saw Tom's calendar post in the group, there was a day in the calendar where it was the entire day was blocked out. We have so much inventory that we ran out of shelf space in our basement.
Well, because the store has grown so much. But once again, all of that comes back to us being intentional and knowing that we were going to have to hire employees to build this business to where we wanted it to be, and then hiring the right employees and doing everything we can to take care of them.
Yeah, now I know where your post inspiration came from. Do you want employees in your business?
Well, actually, so just a quick aside with that, you don't necessarily need employees.
No.
And I think that's an important thing to understand is how big of a business do you want to grow? And then to do that, do you need employees or not? And do you want employees? Because a lot of people think that they have to have employees. You don't necessarily have to have them. You can use contractors. You can automate some stuff. Or your business might not even be big enough where you need, other people. Mm-hmm. So it all depends on what you want to do and how big of a business you want to grow.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So, employees and the right employees can make such a difference in your life if that's part of your plan for your business.
All right, so today's topic that we're going to talk about is Some of the hurdles that many and most entrepreneurs kind of come up against when it comes to building a business.
Come on, building a business is easy, right?
Yeah. Ooh, easy button.
Yeah.
Easy button.
How I built a 6-figure business in 1 month.
Even worse, 1 week.
1 week. And I only had $6 and I was sleeping on my sister's couch.
Okay. Obviously, you can see that those rags to riches stories drive Tom absolutely bonkers.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you are the same and you just scroll by those ads and just shake your head, throw us a comment or hit the like button. Give us some emoji love.
Well, and it's not to say that people don't have tough stories. I mean, we have a tough story. Everyone does. Mm-hmm. But what happens with a lot of those rags to riches stories is they leave a lot of the gaps out. Like, I saw a post the other day, this woman's like, yeah, I was down and I had all these issues and then I lost my job and then I got online and I started a blog and within 1 month I had replaced my full-time income.
I saw that one.
And it was like, okay, well, you're leaving a lot of details out. You build up this great story. You leave one line about, building a blog to replace your income in a month, and then you go on to all the success. You just skipped over the whole meat and the whole challenge of where everyone gets caught up, and then other people get frustrated because they read that and they're like,
Why can't I do that?
I started a blog and it's been 6 months or it's been a year and I haven't replaced my income.
Well, and I want to bring out a quote from a friend of mine, Jessica Lorimer. Is a good friend and fellow entrepreneur, and she talks about this a lot in the online space. And the term is pimping your pain for profit.
Yes.
And that right there is why those overnight success stories, I think, just get you upset and get you frustrated and like annoy the crap out of people because you're taking. It's not to say that none of that bad stuff happened to people, and it's not to say that you can't share your story with people, because I love when people share their stories. But when you are specifically taking certain pieces of your story that are the most dramatic and the most eye-catching and clickbaity, and you're picking them and choosing them and only sharing those parts without actually sharing like the vulnerable emotions and taking people through what you did. And then on the end, the result behind that is just to get people to buy something from you. That just doesn't, it's not cool. And I love, every time Jess sees one of those online, she's always like, I can't stand it when people pimp their pain for profit.
You're being a lot nicer now than you usually are on the rants we have around these topics. But so anyway, so we've got 3 common challenges that businesses run into. And the first one is not knowing
what to do. Yep.
Right? And this is where most of us run into that issue. We hit a point where we're like, I want something more out of life. Like, the path I'm on isn't going to get me to where I want to be. So you're like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to start a business. In my case, I'm going to try to start like 10 different businesses.
Yeah, he totally did. He tried the stock market.
Yeah.
You tried a couple random things before you hit on real estate, and then.
But even with real estate, I mean, I didn't know.
Well, there's a ton of things within real estate.
Yeah, well, and part of the challenge too, to be honest, is there is such an abundance of information, and it's information overload. I mean, like I read a lot of books, obviously, but I used to listen to a lot of podcasts, and part of the challenge that comes up is that there's a million good ideas and a million ways to, build a business or make money. And what happens to a lot of people is they end up bouncing around, trying a little bit of one or a little bit of another, and they really don't have an overall strategy of what they're trying to do. Yeah. So all that information seems good, and they're not sure who to follow, who not to follow. Is this person giving me good advice, not good advice? I'm not really sure.
Well, and I think it takes years to start to have your own thoughts and perspectives and knowledge of business. Like, if you haven't been doing this since you were young and reading all the books and listening to all the podcasts and like listening to all the smart people out there who know what they're talking about, it's very difficult to read enough or learn enough to be able to put together a strategy for your own business. You're too close to the situation, for one, and 2, you haven't had that time to kind of accumulate all of that stuff. So it's really tough to jump into something new like this and say, okay, well, I need to go learn this. Now you're looking at years worth of information that it's taken other people to learn, and there's no way you can possibly do that in a short period of time.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people too, they don't know like the right sequence of steps to be taking. So I mean, I was joking with Ariana the other day. So obviously we're launching Lifestyle Builders next week, and I was joking with her. I'm like, well, we can't launch this. We don't have a logo. But what do most people jump to when they start a business? They're like, well, I need a logo, I need a business card,
need a website.
Yeah, and I mean, those things are important, and you might need pieces of them. But to be honest, that's not really what throws most people off. What most people struggle with when they start a business is that they either don't have an offering that people like, or they don't know how to get in front of their customers.
Yeah.
You know, most of us are experts or know enough about what we're doing to build the business or build the product. But where most people fall short is that they haven't done sales or marketing in the past, so they don't know how to go out and actually find customers or explain what they do to be able to bring people in.
Or the opposite, they're really good at sales and marketing, but they don't have the business strategy or anything on the other side of things. So it's tough to put it all together. And then knowing, like, even when you figure it out, the next step is, how do you do that thing that you just figured out you need to do?
Yep. Well, I mean, you know, I was talking to
I need to get visible. Okay. There's about 1 million different ways to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the challenge too is, you know, okay, well, so, you know, one is, you know, how am I going to get visible? What channels am I going to use? Am I going to use social? I mean, there's broad categories like social media, but then even within there, well, which social media platform should I use?
And how on those social media platforms?
Yep.
Everything's got video now. Then there's the text aspect. Then there's podcasts for the audio only people. And it's just, there's so many different aspects to that statement of, I need to get visible. Then knowing which spot to get visible on, but also the focus of, let me try one place instead of what most people do, which is let me be all over the place all the time. And then you split your focus and you don't see traction on any of those. So it's very easy to get frustrated very quickly and take a long time to do something that you thought would only take, a month.
Yeah, well, and part of that too, I mean, so for a long time, people thought that they needed more training and they needed more information. And the reality is all the information is out there. But what we've been hearing from talking to people is the right information and in small actionable chunks. Like I was laughing, a couple months ago, somebody was doing a launch or a promotion, and part of their marketing material was over 80 hours of trainings. And all these people were excited. They're like, man, I get 80 hours of trainings for only $300. I'm looking at it like,
when are you going to watch
who
that?
has time to watch 80 hours of training and then implement that? Like, I've heard of some other launches that people really liked where there was only like 5 hours of training. And some people are like, well, I really want more training. It's like, no, you don't want more training. You want all the fluff cut out, and you want the right set of training in short, small increments so that you can watch the training, go implement it. Watch the next training, go implement it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a challenge a lot of people run into is they keep trying to absorb more and more information where what you actually want is just small pieces in the right order so that you can learn, do.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before, too, that launch where you get 80 hours of training. I believe it's a pretty expensive item. It's a pretty expensive course. And then you don't actually get access to anybody to help you.
Yeah.
So you're in there watching 80 hours of training. Then you've got to turn around and figure out how to implement that in your own business. But the course that you purchased doesn't actually have access to the person teaching it. So now what do? Now you've got to go find, not only do you have to implement this in your business, now you've got to find somebody that you can ask, that you trust. Hey, I just took this course on this. Is this something I need to do in my business? Or can I skip to this training within the course and just implement that?
Well, and even related to that, so when somebody makes a training, I mean, we make trainings, but we try not to focus too much on that because trainings are static. And what most course creators do is they create the trainings once and then they don't update them.
Yep.
And part of, too, like when you're creating a training, the same training can't apply to everyone. There may be pieces of it, but part of it, too, is to say, okay, well, I took this training, but now how do I take that concept and apply it to my business?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, it's difficult on your own, especially if you're new to something, to know how to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that brings us to our third point, which is not only do you need to know what to do and how to do it, you need the support behind that.
Yeah.
So, I've talked to a lot of people who are in the online space and they're like, I've joined all these groups and I'm in talking to people, but I really don't feel like I have anybody to go to when I have specific questions, because you can post up in a Facebook group and you might get 30 different answers depending on the size of the group and the popularness of your question. But then you've got to go through and figure out which of those answers are good advice, which of those answers are bad advice, and which of those answers could be good advice depending on your type of business.
Well, I was going to say, and so there's a couple challenges with just posting up in some of those big groups. I mean, one, you don't know the quality of information. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm reading through responses on some of those, and I'm like, this is just either flat out wrong or terrible advice, or even sometimes, like, illegal. So no, not good at all. But in the challenges, there's two challenges. One, the people receiving the advice oftentimes don't know that. And sometimes even the people giving the advice have the best intention, but they don't know it's bad advice. Yeah. They heard somebody else say it, they go and repeat it, and they've never actually done it themselves. So there can be a lot of, harm done from asking for that free information. The second piece is they don't know your business.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that I found as a coach is I'm often asking people a lot of questions before I give advice. And it's crazy to me how often someone asks a question, other people in a random group have no context, and yet they're giving advice to that person's situation, and they know nothing about it.
Yeah, we call those ticking time bombs. Thanks to Jill Stanton over at Screw the 9 to 5. He has been officially crowned the ticking time bomb. Yeah, well, you guys have seen him in the group.
I was going to say, well, they were ticking time bombs. Then it got shortened to hashtag TTB.
Yep.
And then I think now it's like the
Tominator.
The Tominator, then the person formerly known as.
Oh.
Right? Like, we need to keep going down that road. I just need a symbol. Like
a bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't let it go to your head or anything.
Well, I was going to say, but outside of that, too, so support in terms of having people around you that understand you. I mean, we've been entrepreneurs for 10 years, and there's been ups and down period where, having the support and accountability around us has been big. And it's funny, even as of late, we have friends and family that, not that they don't support us, but when we let them know that I was leaving my job, they were like, "Oh, you sure that's a good idea? Are you guys going to be okay? Like, are you guys sane? You're selling.
No one said that.
You selling your vehicles? That doesn't seem like
we're a little crazy because we're selling our nice cars. Yeah. But I think it's tough as an entrepreneur. You don't have people around you that get it sometimes.
Yep.
And it can be very nice to go and have those chats, like when your family comes and asks you if you're crazy because you've decided to do the next thing in your business or cut something out of your personal life. You have those people to go and talk to and say, hey, have you guys experienced this before? Like, what do you say to the people that you love that are asking you all these questions or that don't support you in your business? And then we found so many friends all over the place now, but it's just nice. Like then when you go to conferences or live events, or even when you're traveling to another city with your family, having like an online network of other entrepreneurs. It's been so cool to be like, oh yeah, we're going to be in Dallas. Who's in Dallas? And then getting to meet up with people while we're there that are in this community or even obviously at some point in Lifestyle Builders.
Yeah, well, and I think the other piece too is, so you got the support piece, but then also the accountability. And, when we were talking to entrepreneurs over the last couple of months, that was the thing that kept shining through.
It's a big piece.
People,
I know what to do. I know how to do it, but I need somebody to stand over my shoulder and poke me and ask me if I did.
Yeah, and I mean, that is so true. Like, there's a lot of people, actually, there's a lot of people that we work with from a coaching perspective, and there was actually one person recently that said, Tom, I'm not hiring you for any of the knowledge. I have that. I just can't actually get it implemented, and I need someone to help me work through some of that stuff and figure out how do I actually implement this and hold me accountable to make sure that I implement the things that I know.
Yeah.
So it's such a challenge sometimes because especially if you were in a job or you were in a corporate environment, you have peers around you, you have project schedules, you have bosses and managers that are helping to keep you accountable. But when you shift into being an entrepreneur and now suddenly you're the boss, there's a lot of benefits, but at the same time, it's sometimes hard to be disciplined and to hold yourself accountable. And having other people is one of the most effective ways to do that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I'm going to jump in and talk about our post of the week for this week.
Post of the week.
Which was a pretty good one. I was not expecting it to be so crazy when I put it up. But if you guys, and I do want to mention, if you guys have posts that you thought were awesome posts for the week. Make sure to comment and let us know so that we can choose topics for the next week's live video. Or if you want your post to be post of the week, post up something awesome or something, a great question in the group, and then maybe we can pick your post for post of the week. But this week's was, what did I say? Oh, what are you an expert at? But the spin on it was you had to tell us in 5 words or less.
Well, and when you initially told me about that post, I said, well, if I can have a whole page, I can tell you. But 5 words is a challenge. And, I think for a lot of people, that's the case. It's like we can talk about what we do and we can talk around it. But when you really have to get concise, it's very powerful to really think, okay, if I distill all those words down, what is the core of what I do?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's very interesting because not necessarily old school, but like back in the day, they still talk about it sometimes, but the thing was like you had to have your elevator pitch. So everyone's like, oh, I got to go and write my elevator pitch, and then like I got to practice it so I can say it by memory. And I just find it interesting because I feel like we've kind of moved away from that in the industry, and it's not so much about your elevator pitch now. It's about how can you tell people what you do in a way that makes you stand out from everyone else who does it.
Yeah, and I mean, so I think it's a double-edged sword there because some people try to get too creative. And then it's like, okay, you just said what you did, but I have no idea what that is.
Then you're like trying to figure out. It's like when you do the emoji posts and you're trying to figure out what people's emojis mean. When people use their 5-word, this is what I do thing, and you can't actually figure it out based on their 5 words.
But on the flip side, the good thing about that is you don't just want to be the same answer as everybody else, right? So like one of the things that I look at when I work with entrepreneurs or companies and they've got something laid out, I say, is this specific to you, or could I take that thing you just said and apply it to another business and it would still apply? And if it still applies, you want to tweak it so that it's specific to you and it stands out and it's different. Yeah. Right? So Seth Godin actually has a really good book called Purple Cow. And essentially the concept, like if you haven't read it... I
remember when you bought that book, I was like, what the heck is this book about?
Elena actually really likes she's like, can I read the Purple Cow book? I'm like, I don't know if it's really what you're expecting. But essentially what he talked about is, if you're driving down the road, nobody really looks, for a regular cow on the side of the road. I mean, literally my town that I grew up in has more cows than people. Yep. So cows are just there, and we drive past them, and we don't even see them. We have like driver's blindness or... I
don't remember. There's a specific term.
Yeah, but so no one thinks about the cows that are on the side of the road. But if you were driving down the road and suddenly there was a purple cow on the side of the road, everybody would be looking at that and talking about that purple cow.
People would be stopping and pulling over to take pictures of said.
Absolutely. So when you start thinking about your business, you want to start looking at how can I be different and how can I stand out so that people will stop and pay attention to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a challenge sometimes. I get it. Like we've done so many different things that we've even struggled with. How do we define what we do and everything that we can bring to people in a couple words?
And I think it's hard too because you come up with those words that people typically use to describe what you do, but a lot of times those words are so overused by everyone in the industry that it's like, oh, well, how can I say what I mean but use a different word? So a thesaurus is seriously your best friend. Go and find some interesting ways of describing what you do.
Well, and I've seen some really awesome people do this. So one guy at a conference, I said, so what do you do? And he said, I shoot people. And I was like, what do you mean you shoot people? And he's like, oh, I'm a photographer, and what I do is I take pictures. And so he got me intrigued by I shoot people. 3 words.
You might not want to yell that too loudly, though.
He didn't necessarily say that, or he didn't necessarily say what he did, but it sparked my interest enough that I asked, and then we had a conversation. So, I thought that was a really good way of being able to do it.
It's an interesting one.
It is.
It's a little dangerous, if you ask me.
This
is true. Say that to an undercover cop, you might be
in a big public place. But it was different, right? And it got people curious, and I think that's part of what you want to do. You want to evoke some of that curiosity in people so that they want to ask more, they want to engage in that conversation.
Yeah. And it's along the lines of interesting copywriting, too. People talk about all the ways to get people to open your emails and to read your emails and to stand out on social media when you're posting things. And you don't have to be an amazing copywriter. I mean, most of us aren't. You just have to find your own voice and say it in a way that is going to make people kind of perk up a little bit. So, you know, I know it's tough for a lot of us that are maybe a little bit more numbers based and less creative on the side of writing. But if you can just kind of give yourself a base to work off of and then just throw it out there, you know, ask people that are close to you, ask other entrepreneurs.
Well, that's the biggest thing I was
like,
going to say.
hey, how would you describe this, what I do, in an interesting way? And then you'll have all sorts of ideas or people's different perspectives on what you do to be able to describe it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people try to come up with things in their head, and the reality is, like, go out and talk to your customers, go out and talk to your peers, and they're going to give you quotes, they're going to give you ideas, they're going to give you words, and then you can then formulate those words into being able to describe back what you do. So it doesn't have to be all on your own.
Yeah, but I mean, I loved the post. There were so many people's responses that were interesting. A couple people even did one-word descriptions. But yeah, I thought it was great fun, and thank you all for contributing to the post. Next, I think we've got a winner to announce.
An announcement, absolutely.
So we had all of you who joined the Lifestyle Builders waitlist this week were in competition to win a free month. So we had a bunch of people join that, and we're doing like social media sharing, referring people to the group. And then even I put up a post yesterday about how you would make a great lifestyle builder. So those people got an extra entry. So I'm really I'm really excited to announce our friend Lisa Marie Fletcher. You have won yourself a free month of Lifestyle Builders. Woohoo!
Congratulations.
So exciting. All right. And then speaking of Lifestyle Builders, the waitlist is actually only going to be open for a little while longer. Our waitlist early birders actually will get access to join Lifestyle Builders early. That was one of their exclusive bonuses. And they also have another bonus that no one else will get as well. So if you are thinking like, hey, that sounds awesome, I want to be in there, hurry up and go jump on the wait list so that you can get access to that awesome stuff before the early bird period closes and we launch officially out to the world.
Yeah, and so we have 3 awesome bonuses. You guys will learn more about 2 of them next week, and then you'll learn about the one you missed if you didn't join the wait list. But I will tell you, the bonuses are great, and given that we're coming up towards the end of the year, we're closing out this year and we're starting out next year, you're going to want to jump in and especially get those bonuses because they're going to help you with all aspects of that.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all.
That's it.
We got everything? That's
Got it.
Finite. All right, everyone. That is it for our show today. Thank you all so much for watching with us. Once again, if you're watching with the replay, hit us up in the comments and let us know your team replay. If anyone's got questions or agrees or disagrees with anything that we chatted about today, also comment below so we can come back and answer those.
And we will leave a link down below to join the waitlist. Got a couple more hours today for that. Otherwise, you'll miss out, but you'll be available for the opening on Monday.
Yeah. Woohoo!
All right.
So excited.
With that, have a great night. Have a great weekend.
Yes. Bye.